we're just going to get this one over with. Because here we are. And why not? What a day. November 3rd. Today is Decay. Also election day here in America. And maybe a good way to take your mind off of it is to, assuming you've already voted. If you haven't, get off the phone. There's nobody home. Go to your voting place. Do your stuff. And then consider some today's Decay content. Because why not focus on something positive? I ask you. So on this day, in 1871, Hans Hein Evers was born. One of my favorites. We talked about him the other day. I think actually a couple times recently. Talking about The Student of Prague, because the 26th version came out a week or two ago in 1926. But yeah, he's born 1871, and he was considered like Germany's answer to Edgar Allan Poe, and he was a horror writer. Maybe I don't know what his most famous story was. I'm going to say it was The Spider, but maybe not. He was a good friend to Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man in the world. So, guilt by association, I suppose. Also, similarly wicked. And I guess his largest work would be this trilogy he did called the Frank Braun trilogy. Braun, B-R-A-U-N. And it was kind of like autobiographical, like it was Hans Hein Evers, but it's this other character just wandering around the German countryside laughing at idiot Christians, I'd say, and then getting into trouble on his own. Very often getting involved with these like weird occult rituals. It's really good stuff. This is a early printing of Alruna. So the Frank Braun trilogy is Alruna, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and Vampire, all featuring this Frank Braun character on his ups and downs. But it's basically him, I'd say. Yeah, Alruna is the second of the trilogy. But it's the earliest, this is the earliest copy I have of it, which is from, it's like the teens. He was writing like pre-World War I and was big into the occult and big into Teutonic myths and legends, which also put him 1911. Is that right? This copy, 1911. Look at this. Craziness, right? I don't know if you can see all the detail on that. Anyway, Alruna is about a apparently in the gallows, the semen of a hanged man would fall from the gallows, and underneath the swaying corpse would sprout into a mandrake root, and from this mandrake root would come like a soulless, I'm not sure if it was a woman or just a person, whatever. In this case, Alruna is that person, and Frank Braun was her like pseudo uncle from I haven't read it in a long time, but from memory, he was her uncle, and she was this like without conscience woman who was just enjoying getting into lots of trouble, and not in the sense of like a flapper, because I feel like it's almost like Gibson girl flapperdom, but it's not. She's just like has no soul and like is there to like cause problems and pain and enjoys it. Yeah, and he gets wrapped up in the story as well, trying to help her. This is the second of the trilogy I was saying. So, all right, so that's 1911. This is Einstein Evers. What year did this come out? 1916. Yeah. And this is like just like his writings on Edgar Allan Poe from memory. Some of this has been a little while. 1916. He, at this point, he was living in, well, he went to Mexico for the revolution, which he wrote about in Vampire, and then came to New York and spent a bunch of time here in New York during World War I with Aleister Crowley in Midtown. Here is an original German copy of his short stories, Nightmare. Very good, right? What year is this? 1922 is when this was printed. Also, a lot of his short stories were in the Orchid Garden, which I have the whole 1919 first year collection, but I don't have that readily available. Some other time, maybe when we talk about Karl Hans Strobel. Meanwhile, so yeah, Einstein Evers is here. Here is the first English printing of the first of the Frank Braun trilogy, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, 1927, I think this was. And it's artwork by Mahan Blaine. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. But, yeah, this stuff is so good. 1927, the John Day Company. Yeah. He's all just like laughing at God in a way that like he has problems, but I wouldn't say he loses. Then around the same time, maybe this is 1930, he comes up with this short story collection called Blood. Yeah. These are all the, not all, but most of these are the English versions. So, you know, like they came out previous, you know, at some time prior in the German language. He was not well known in America. But this is like a bunch of his short stories. Always gruesome, always twisted. Right, so that's 1930. Around the same time, 1930, this book came out in the English language, The Student of Prague. And this has, from memory, yep, ha ha ha. So this is a photoplay. This is not English. This is actually German. This is the German language photoplay version of The Student of Prague, which was first done by Paul Wegener in like 1913, and then again remade also in Germany 1926 with Conrad Veidt. And then there's a third one, 1935-ish, give or take, which is like already in the Third Reich and can be considered of no artistic merit. Although I've never seen it. Maybe it does, but, you know, that's pretty much what people say, right? Either way, this book came out before the Third Reich version, and features stills of the first two versions. That was Paul Wegener, who also was the Golem, and here's Werner Krauss, who was also in Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but that's him in the 1926 version. So it's a pretty weird book because it combines a photoplay of like both film versions. I had no reason to complain, but odd for what it is. And the story is fittingly about a guy who sells his soul to the devil to impress a woman, and doesn't go so well. Short version. Here is the first English language version of Alruna, 1930. Same company that did Sorcerer's Apprentice. Same artwork. Or not same artwork, but same artist. All really good stuff. I mean, like, so, like, decadent and twisted. All for it. Almost like Audrey Beardsley-like, I'd say. The whole thing is like just filled with this kind of stuff. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. This is gonna fall over. Please don't. All right. Up next. So we talked about Sorcerer's Apprentice to a degree, which is all about like this one character out in the middle, and it almost feels like something like Midsummer, I'd say, where this character is just like out in the middle of the wilderness with a bunch of wilderness folks and thinks like their religion is quaint, and winds up convincing somebody that like they could be like the reborn version of Christ or something, and like they wind up crucifying them, and anyway, it's really good. Yeah. Second one being Alruna, and then the third one being Vampire. So here is the first American version of Vampire. I love this artwork. And this is a really crazy story because it's like, again, Frank Braun, the continuing story of, and he is in love with this Jewess, which is always such a weird word, but it's what people said back then, I guess. A Jewish lady. But it has such a like insidious feeling to it, doesn't it? Anyway, so yeah, he's in love with this Jewess, although she's not like a negative person in any way, but the two of them are like drug addicts together. Is that the right term? Maybe not. It's like I said, it's been a long time since I've read any of these. I'm pulling from my memory here, but they're both people who imbibe in blood taking. So like they're like slitting their wrists open and drinking each other's blood, but it's not like a vampire in the sense of like Dracula, Nosferatu type things. But it almost gets to that point, but like in their own way. It's just really dark and twisted and awesome stuff. And here is that was the American version, and then here is The Vampire's Prey, which is the English, like the Great Britain version of the same story. Came out in the same year. This is like 34, 33, something like that. Also, the John Day Company, 34, which also, like 33, 34, is about the rise of the Third Reich, at which point he became, just prior to that, so what I was saying was, he was really interested in Teutonic myths, the occult. All of that fit right into like a sweet spot of like proto-Nazi movement type stuff, and so he was involved with like the very early Nazi movement, although as they came to power, and he actually even wrote a biography of some prominent Nazi party person in about 1930-ish, maybe 32, but by 33, 34, they find that he is now on the outs because, for one, Vampire features a Jewish lady in it in a way that is not as if she's like a subhuman. She's like his equal and lover, which is a no-no. And he was also like, I believe, bisexual, along with, like the Aleister Crowley type crowd. All of which is to say that it resulted in all of his books in Germany being burnt, and him being, even though he was like this huge prominent name for a period, if not earlier. I don't think he was. No, I'm not sure to what degree he was at the start of the Third Reich, but certainly like 10, 15, 20 years earlier. Yeah, no question. Anyway, so yeah, he dies sick and penniless on the streets of Berlin. Not in a concentration camp, good for him, but sick and penniless on the streets of Berlin because of the party that he supported, because he liked certain aspects of what they were doing and they liked certain aspects of what he was doing. But once they got the power, they said, "You're out of here, pal." And that's that. So I feel like this is a timely story to tell, as long-winded as it was, here on Election Day. Careful who you vote for, folks. All right. This is way too long-winded, so I'll try to hurry it up. Also, on this day, 1928, Dick Bennick was born, a.k.a. Dr. Paul Bearer and Count Chocula. Probably a horror host from late 50s, 60s onwards, who had two really interesting personas at different points of his career. Starting off in North Carolina and eventually really finding his sweet spot in Florida as Dr. Paul Bearer. Some of the images, though, of Count Chocula look so good. I'd love to have seen that moving. I don't think any of that exists that I know of, at least. Jean Rollin was born on this day, 1938. Tom Savini, born on this day, 1946. The first Godzilla. Yeah. The Godzilla to end all Godzillas. Premiered this day, 1954. And what else? 1976. The film Carrie premiered. It's a really good film. Close to my heart. And on this day, 1980, The Damned released the Black Album. Excellent. A lot of people hold that up as one of, if not their best albums. Maybe. Hard to say. I don't know. I don't know I can do that. I have a hard time with best ofs. Anyway, there you go. Today, Fred history, space and time. Today's Decay. Tomorrow, who knows what tomorrow will bring. Goodbye.